You leave for work in the morning. Your dog watches you go. The door closes, and for the next 9 hours, in a quiet apartment, something happens, but you'll never see it. Your dog doesn't sleep through it. They don't just wait. Cameras placed in homes by behavioral researchers have captured what actually unfolds in those hours when no one is watching, pacing the same hallway over and over, vocalizing to no one, standing at the window, returning, again and again, to the spot where you usually sit, lying down on something that smells like you. It isn't boredom, it isn't anxiety in the way we usually mean the word. From the outside, it looks exactly like what we'd call missing someone. So the question is that what it actually is? Do animals get lonely? Or are we just projecting our own ache onto creatures that can't tell us either way? Let's start with what loneliness actually is, because most people picture it as a feeling. It isn't. Or, it isn't only that. Loneliness is a biological state. In humans, it triggers measurable changes: elevated cortisol, increased inflammation, disrupted sleep, a weakened immune response. It activates the same brain regions that respond to physical pain. That's not a metaphor. fMRI scans show that being socially excluded lights up the anterior cingulate cortex, the same neural real estate that processes a stubbed toe. Your body treats loneliness as a kind of injury, and here's the part most people don't realize. That machinery isn't unique to us. In 2016, neuroscientist Kay Tye and her team at MIT identified a cluster of neurons in the dorsal raphe nucleus that activated when mice were socially isolated. When the mice were placed back with others, the activity dropped. When the same neurons were artificially stimulated, the mice sought out social contact more aggressively. The researchers described it as a loneliness-like state, a neurological hunger for company that operated the same way physical hunger does. Not a feeling the mouse could describe, but a signal the brain was producing. And the signal said, "Go find someone." That single experiment quietly changed how scientists thought about animal loneliness. Because if the mechanism exists in a mouse, it almost certainly exists everywhere up the chain. Now there's the obvious pushback. Maybe what looks like loneliness in animals is just routine disruption. The dog isn't sad. They just don't know when you're coming back. The parrot isn't lonely. It's understimulated. The elephant pacing in a zoo isn't grieving. It's bored. That's fair. Until you look at what happens when the disruption is removed and the behavior doesn't change. In the 1950s, psychologist Harlow ran a set of experiments on rhesus monkeys that are still hard to read about today. He raised infant monkeys in complete isolation, adequate food, adequate warmth, no social contact. The monkeys survived physically, but something else collapsed. They rocked, they self-harmed, they stopped exploring. When returned to other monkeys months later, most could never form normal social bonds again. Their nervous systems had been shaped by absence. Whatever you call the thing they were missing, connection, attachment, presence, its lack didn't just make them uncomfortable. It rewrote them. Prairie voles form lifelong monogamous bonds. When researchers separated bonded pairs, the surviving vole showed behavioral signs that closely tracked human depression: reduced movement, loss of interest in food, elevated stress hormones. The same brain chemistry that supported the bond, oxytocin and vasopressin, also produced the suffering when the bond was broken. Parrots, alone for too long, pluck their own feathers until their skin shows. African grey parrots, when separated from a long-term partner, have been documented, refusing to eat for weeks. Some don't recover. There's a story that lands harder than most. Alex, the African grey studied by Dr. Irene Pepperberg for 30 years, said the same phrase to her every single night before sleep: "You be good. I love you. See you tomorrow." On the last night of his life, he said it again. He didn't see her tomorrow. He died in the night, alone in his cage. Whatever Alex understood about presence, about absence, about people who weren't going to come back, that line existed. He said it for years. Elephants kept in solitary captivity show stereotypic behavior. Repetitive swaying, head bobbing, trunk twirling. The behavior disappears when they're reintroduced to other elephants. Sanctuary staff describe the moment a previously isolated elephant joins a herd as one of the hardest things they witness. Vocalizations, physical contact, a visible shift in the animal's whole body. They call it relief. It looks like relief. Octopuses, solitary by nature, evolved to live alone, still seem to form attachments to specific human caretakers. In aquarium settings, individual octopuses have been documented, ignoring most staff, but consistently approaching one particular person, lifting an arm out of the water when that person walks by, sometimes squirting water at strangers, but never at their chosen handler. We don't fully understand what that is, but it isn't nothing. And then, in 1989, researchers monitoring sonar in the North Pacific picked up a whale call at 52 Hz. That's an unusual frequency. Blue whales typically call between 10 and 39 Hz. Fin whales sit even lower. No known species sings at 52. For decades, marine biologists tracked this single voice, calling alone across the ocean, season after season, year after year. It was given a name, sometimes called the loneliest whale in the world, because as far as anyone could tell, nothing was answering. There's been debate about whether the whale is truly alone or whether it's a hybrid that other whales can hear but simply don't respond to. The science is unsettled, but for over 30 years, one call has crossed thousands of miles of ocean and come back unanswered. Whatever the whale is experiencing in there, the pattern is consistent. It keeps calling. So why would evolution wire animals to feel something this painful? Because the alternative kills them faster. For a social species, being alone isn't just unpleasant, it's dangerous. A lone wolf doesn't last a winter. A separated elephant calf doesn't survive infancy. A monkey without a troop can't watch the trees for predators while it sleeps. The pain of isolation isn't a flaw in the system, it's the system. Loneliness is the brain forcing the body to do something about its situation before that situation becomes fatal. The same way thirst pushes you toward water and hunger pushes you toward food, loneliness pushes you back toward your group, your family, your people. Pain you can't ignore is the only kind that works. What we can measure now is more than we used to. We can see the cortisol rise. We can map the dorsal raphe firing. We can track which oxytocin receptors light up when bonded animals reunite and which stay dark when they don't. We can document the behavior, replicate it, photograph it, time it. What we can't measure is what it feels like in there. We can't get inside the dog's head when it stops eating. We can't ask the elephant what it remembers. We don't know if the dog by the door experiences loneliness the way you do, as a heavy thing inside the chest, a quiet ache that follows you through a room. We don't know if the parrot pulling out its own feathers feels something we'd recognize as despair, or whether it's a behavioral loop running without an inner narrator. The honest answer is that nobody knows, and we may never know. But here's what we do know. Across mice and monkeys and elephants and parrots and voles and whales, something built into the body responds to being apart from others the same way it responds to injury. It hurts. It changes behavior. It rewires brains. It shortens lives. Whatever it isn't decorative. It isn't a sentimental projection we invented to feel less alone in the universe. It's older than us, older than language, older than naming things. And it's the same machinery, the same chemistry, the same circuit that makes your dog wait by the door, that makes the parrot stop eating, that keeps a whale calling into the dark for 30 years. Whatever loneliness is, we didn't invent it. We just gave it a word.